We like sports and we don't care who knows. From shooting hoops to the Super Bowl. We like sports and we don't care who knows.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Flem and Lem, episode 9. That's Lem.
That's Flem.
And we are Flem and Lem Sports Podcast.
Let's go.
Got another baseball episode coming to you today, live. Not really live, but another baseball episode. And today we have a special episode. What do we have on par for today, Caleb?
Yeah, so the season kicked off about 2 months ago, give or take, if you want to count that Japan series. So we're going 2 months into the season. Who are our all-star starters? Voting will kick off, I don't know, 3.5 weeks or so.
Pretty soon.
And I love the all-star game. It's one of my favorite events of the year. I loved how it used to mean something for home field, but regardless, you can't really fake baseball like you can just mess around in some of the other all-star games. So I love it. And so we've got our starters today based on positions in both leagues.
Yeah, so probably what we're going to do, we'll start in the AL. We'll go by position. Then we'll go to the NL.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get started. AL catchers.
Little disclaimer real quick
ahead.
is for baseball, every team needs a representative. We picked our starters as today and at the end of May who are the best players, who are the all-star players. We're not doing the Marlins need a start or need a player, so who could fit in there. We're just doing the best player at their position, who we each think. So
right.
That's the disclaimer. Starter, let's go AL catcher. I've got Gary Sanchez.
We both have Sanchez.
Yeah. I think he's pretty much the front runner. I remember last year, all he needed to do was hit above 200 at the All-Star break, and he would have started because the AL catchers were so weak. But he couldn't do it. And this year he's really found himself. I know 250-ish now is what he's hitting, which is great for him. And he's got 15 or 16 home runs.
Yeah. And there's a couple of people on the core of the Yankees that are keeping this team together because of all the injuries. And Gary Sanchez is one of those players. So we think that he deserves the All-Star start this year.
Let's move to first base. Flem, who you got in the AL?
I've got C.J. Cron.
Good pick.
From the Twins. He's hitting .278, 13 home runs, 34 RBIs. Just a really solid player. There's a couple that you could choose from, and I think that you had a different player. But, really solid player for the Twins. He has a 1.5 WAR, which is tied for first among AL first basemen. I think overall, with hitting and defense, that he's my pick.
I went Jose Abreu from the White Sox. AL first base is surprisingly weak. You'd think it'd be a little stronger because first base is a power position, but Abreu's stat line is .263, 13 home runs, 42 RBI. He's second in the AL in home runs. I think it looks like he leads the AL in RBI. He's got 54 hits on the year, which is near the top, tied for the league actually right now, what I'm looking at. 14 doubles. The dude can hit. I know .263 doesn't seem great, but he's slugging .522, OPS is .840. The White Sox aren't really that good, but he is by far their best player.
Yeah, he is. And one thing about C.J. Cron is that he does have 30 less at-bats than everybody else. Mm-hmm. So take that into account. But, they're pretty much the front runners.
Picks. Yeah, good picks.
Okay, moving on to second base. Caleb, who do you have?
So this one was interesting for me.
Yeah.
So when we first did it, I put Gleyber Torres from the Yankees, but I looked at kind of some of the deeper stats, and I ended up going with Whit Merrifield from Kansas City. So Torres leads with 12 home runs among all the second basemen. Whit's got 10 points higher batting average, 297, same amount of RBIs, more walks, more stolen bases, less strikeouts, 8 more hits. Pretty much almost every other stat, on base percentage, he's beaten him. Slugging, he's almost beaten him. Almost every other stat, Whit Merrifield leads. Except people just love to look at the home runs. And Torres has been really good. He's been really good for the Yankees. Mm-hmm. But Merrifield, I think, is more of a complete player.
Yeah. And so we're going to have a similar situation in the NL as well. Because I picked Alberto Mondesi, who is listed as a second baseman, but he's split time with Whit Merrifield there. So Mondesi also plays different positions, but I put him as my second baseman. And I think the thing that stood out to me is he's hitting .291 as well, but he has 41 RBIs, which is almost It's a lot higher than any other second baseman in the NL. He has similar power and all that, but just as far as driving in runs, I think Mondesi has the advantage there.
Let's move on to shortstop in the American League. Flem?
I've got Tim Anderson. This one was a really tight race.
This one's tough.
Tight race. And I also, we'll get into Lem's pick, but I think that he has a great pick as well. But Tim Anderson hitting 337, 8 home runs, 13 stolen bases. He's a great combination of average, power, and speed at shortstop. And I also picked him because I think he's had some of the best moments in baseball so far. Talking about walk-offs, multiple walk-offs, things like that. Kind of, as far as the bat for the White Sox, really just being one of the guys. So
yeah.
That's why I picked Tim Anderson.
Before I get into my pick, I want to say a word on Anderson. I think, and I know we preface this with, it doesn't matter that each team needs a representative, but I think being on the White Sox is going to hurt either him or Jose Abreu.
One of them's going to...
I don't think the White Sox get 2 players selected.
Yeah.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I could see one of those causing problems. My pick was Jorge Polanco from the Twins. So he's hitting 339, 9 bombs, 26 RBIs, 14 doubles, and he leads shortstops in the AL in hits. So I think you could go right back and forth with Polanco and Tim Anderson. For this one, I think it's going to be really interesting to see who the fans pick, because starters are based off of fans voting. And if you remember last year, AL shortstop was insane. Yeah. You had Lindor, Machado, Gene Segura, Andrelton Simmons, Xander Bogaerts. All of these guys had great years. And I know some of those guys are in the NL now, but to say that Polanco and Tim Anderson are the 2 front runners for starter at shortstop is crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't think you go wrong with either of those picks. Polanco has 5 triples, Anderson has 0, but more walks, less strikeouts. But that just, both of those guys are all-star quality. It just surprised me that those are the 2 guys.
Yeah. If you're going based on purely stats, it's got to be Polanco.
Yeah, but I agree with you.
Going off of fan voting is going to be interesting because fans will remember the Anderson,
and
the bat flip, all that stuff.
Some people like it, some people don't like it.
Right.
But both of those guys are deserving.
Right. Okay, moving on to third base.
Third base.
In the AL, we both have Bregman.
Yep, Alex Bregman.
Yeah, he's pretty much the runaway.
I think he's the runaway because he's the biggest name.
Yeah.
He's also star quality. He also plays for a good team. We've seen in the past good teams have more fans voting. When the Royals were really good, they had starters who probably shouldn't have started. The Cubs, they have starters who probably shouldn't start. Good players, but so I think Bregman gets the nod. Leads third baseman in home runs.
His average is not up there really.
Yeah.
But his numbers are really comparable to Matt Chapman, and they're considered to be 2 of the best. So
a guy that really interests me though is, again, from the White Sox. Surprising, but Moncada.
Yeah.
So he has more hits, more doubles, more triples, almost the same amount of RBIs, and a 20-point higher average than Bregman, but 30 more strikeouts and 20 less walks.
Right.
So,
and Bregman has his glove as well.
Yeah.
One of the best.
And he's one of the best players on probably the best team in baseball.
Right.
So I'll be shocked if he doesn't get it.
Okay, we're gonna go to outfielders. Name all of your outfielders. And then we'll go from there.
So just a heads up, outfield in baseball, you do not have to have left, center, and right. You just pick 3 outfielders, and then you play them. The manager will play them as he considers best. So this was actually really interesting, and as a baseball fan, and any of you listening, this could be a little dicey because my outfield is Eddie Rosario from the Twins, George Springer from the Astros, and Michael Brantley from the Astros. The name that I don't have is Mike Trout. I think that all 3 of those guys have had great years. Rosario is leading the Twins with an average home runs, RBIs, a whole bunch of these categories. Springer is probably the American League MVP. Now, he's hurt, so we'll see what happens, how long he's on the DL, because that could affect his all-star status. And
right.
Brantley might be the best free agent signing this year.
And I'm disappointed the Braves did not get him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Caleb kind of went with, good for you. You went for the people who are hot right now. I have a little bit more of the bigger names. So I have Springer as well. and I have Trout, and I have Gallo. I have Joey Gallo.
That's a shocker.
My
That's
starting.
a shocker.
Just purely because of his bat. And I have Mike Trout. His batting numbers this year a little bit down, but he's Mike Trout. He'll be back. He'll be fine. But I also have Mike Trout because he might be the best defensive center fielder.
Yeah.
Or outfielder, just in general, for that matter. So overall, bat and glove, I think you have to put in Mike Trout, and he's one of the league leaders in WAR, and because that takes into account stolen bases, defensive WAR, offensive WAR, things like that. So I do have Mike Trout in mind.
Now, we are making our picks on today is May 26th.
Right.
When we're recording this. I know Mike Trout will be voted in as a starter by the fans. Like that will happen.
Will.
That will happen.
Yeah.
It's like Bryce Harper has a good chance of starting for the National League just because he's Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And we can make the decision that Trout deserves it and Michael Brantley deserves it. Because Brantley's had incredible numbers so far.
320,
but
10 home runs.
Brantley is not Trout.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So
the outfield
both deserving.
The outfield is where I think it's going to be tricky because did you say Reddick?
I didn't.
Oh, well, Josh Reddick
he has
the
great
Astros,
numbers too.
He leads the AL in hitting right now, 325.
Yeah.
Like other guys, you could say Trey Mancini from the Orioles. He's hitting 304 with 10 home runs. The Orioles are going to need a guy. Like Mookie Betts again, like you said. Tommy Pham has been good for the Rays. Like there are guys who are really good. Domingo Santana from the Mariners who are going to need a guy.
Yeah.
There are guys who are really, really good who won't make this team in the outfield because
it's not they don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And to keep in mind, we are talking about the starters, not the entire team.
Reserves.
So both deserving to be on the team at least.
Yeah. A note on Rosario. I said he led the Twins in average. I was wrong. He's hitting 285, which is still pretty good. 16 bombs, 45 RBI. Like all six guys we said could start.
Yeah.
Reddick
and they could
start.
deserve it.
Mancini could start, who we didn't say. They all deserve it. Outfield is going to be a position to watch.
Okay, let's finish with the last two positions. Pretty much one option. Pitching, we both have Verlander. Kind of some of the aces this year for both AL and NL have been not
A little disappointing.
as much. They haven't dominated as much as we're used to. But Verlander has been one that has been consistently dominant.
I'd say he's a front runner for the Cy Young right now.
He is.
Like Sale has not been good. David Price has been hurt and not great.
Snell hasn't been
Snell
as
has
good.
been what's his name? Garrett Cole has been okay. Like he's been
His
good.
ERA is still like 4.
Yeah. So Justin
been a weird
Verlander's he's the front runner, and I don't think there's really much to dispute there.
Yeah, and the same for JD Martinez. He's the best DH in the AL.
Yeah.
And there's not really anyone close.
And that's who we both said for pitcher and DH respectively.
Yep.
So let's move into the National League. This one got interesting towards the end as well. But we'll start with catcher. Flem?
Got Wilson Contreras.
Yeah.
Another one. Usually Real Muto is in this conversation, but Real Muto's numbers are a little bit down this year. Real Muto's only hitting like 275-ish, 270. Wilson Contreras hitting over 300, more home runs, pretty much same RBIs, stuff like that. So it's got to be Wilson Contreras.
I also said Contreras. If you're a catcher and you can hit over 300, especially 320, which is what Contreras is hitting right now, you're going to start.
Yeah.
Like he will start the All-Star game unless something crazy happens.
Especially if you're hitting that average and you're hitting more home runs than everybody
Oh, yeah.
else.
And you're a catcher. I would agree Real Muto is up there. I would also say Yasmani Grandal from Milwaukee. Him and Real Muto pretty much have the same average. He's got a couple more home runs than Real Muto, same amount of hits. Like those stats, like if they only choose two catchers, which I'm pretty sure there's 3 on the roster, it's going to be a battle between those two guys. I also think Yachty could get some votes because he's Yachty or Molina, but it's going to be Contreras starting.
Contreras, yeah. It's Contreras and then the rest of the field, pretty much, right now.
Yeah.
Okay, first baseman. I think we have the same. Josh Bell.
We do. Josh Bell from Pittsburgh, which I love.
He's tearing it up.
Tearing it up. 341, 1647. OPS over 1,000, slugging over 700. The dude is like if the Pirates were I mean, the Pirates have been better than people thought, but if the Pirates were in the playoff race or end in the playoff race, this guy could get some MVP votes. Like, I remember he was a project that people had kind of given up on, and now he could start at first
He's
base.
one of those players that we've only talked about Bellinger and Yelich for MVP.
Good point.
He is not far behind. His numbers
are great.
He's up there
Yeah.
with both of them.
This is another case where I think NL first base is crazy strong. Goldschmidt, Freeman, Rizzo, Max Muncy.
When Goldschmidt is like
When
not
Goldschmidt's
top 3,
yeah.
that's when you know that first baseman is stacked.
So stat-wise and performance-wise, it should be Bell. Voting-wise, I'm not sure fans are going to vote for Josh Bell from the Pittsburgh
Could be Freddie
Pirates.
Freeman.
It could be Freddie Freeman, who's also who's having a great, deserving year.
Yeah, and there's a spot for him on my team. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
So let's go to second base. This is one of the ones that it's kind of like the AL situation we had.
Yeah, I'll explain. So my second baseman is Javi Baez. He's listed as a second baseman on MLB.com. I know he's played a ton of shortstop this year, so that would change things, which is what Flem did. So he's my second baseman. If he gets listed as a shortstop, then I don't know, maybe Jeff McNeil from New York, who's hitting over 330, maybe Hernandez from Philly, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's weak. It's a weak position if Javi Baez is not considered a second baseman.
It is. There's like a couple players in the NL who, like, they're there, but they're just not putting up all-star. We got Moustakas, Albies, even Frazier. Like, there's just like okay players. So if you're gonna pick Javi as a second baseman, he's by far the starter.
I'm glad you brought up Moustakas and
Albies,
because if Javi is listed as a shortstop, both the Brewers and the Braves fan bases love their players. I think one of those two, fan voting, could start, even though they might not be the most... Like, both of them have had good seasons, but...
Yeah. And if it's between those two, I think it has to be Moustakas.
I would agree, but it's going to be...
Even though I am a Braves fan.
And
I will vote for Albies.
That position's going to be interesting.
It's going to be really interesting. Okay, so going to shortstop, this is where I have Javi, because I think he's played a lot of shortstop, so he can go either way. I have Javi Baez. Enough said about it.
And that's a great choice. Yeah. If he's listed as a shortstop, he would have been my pick at shortstop.
Right.
My pick was Paul DeYoung from St. Louis. For any of you listening who know the shortstop position in the National League, you got to be thinking, why are you not picking Trevor Story? And this had me back and forth. But Paul DeYoung is hitting 20 points higher. He's got a higher on-base percentage, slugging, and OPS. 20 less strikeouts. 10 more walks. He has less home runs than Story. But almost every other category, he's leading. And Paul DeYoung has been an anchor for the Cardinals. He's third in the lineup. He's been really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to have a backup, I think Gene Segura's right there too.
Yeah.
But Gene Segura doesn't have the power numbers that they have. He's got the average. He hits over 300 almost every year.
In my opinion, Gene Segura is one of the most underrated players in the league. And I think he was the best player the Phillies got.
Yes. I agree. I've said my piece on Bryce Harper plenty of times. But yes, I agree. Okay, going to third base. If you don't pick Arenado, then you're not a baseball fan.
333, 14 home runs. Like it's Arenado. If you don't pick him, you're not a baseball fan.
I mean, Josh Donaldson's close. I'm just kidding.
Anthony Rendon is the only other guy who could really make a splash, and he's had a good year, but no one. Enough said. We don't need to discuss that anymore.
Okay, outfield. I think we have the same outfield.
I do too, and I will say here's another. I think Bellinger will be counted as an outfielder, but he could be counted as first base.
Yeah,
he could.
But there's 20 people who play first base.
Yeah.
Max Muncy, David Freese, Bellinger, Ryu.
So let's say Bellinger. Let's say Bellinger's an outfielder. Bellinger, Christian Yelich. Those two are locks. Those two will start in the All-Star game unless they get hurt.
Yes, they will.
The third spot is up a little bit for grabs, but we both said Charlie Blackmon.
We did. And, as much as I wanted to be Acuna, Acuna just, bottom line, hasn't produced as much as Blackmon has. And, I mean, yes, it's May 26th. That could definitely change before the All-Star game. But right now, it's Blackmon. Unless you want to put possibly Pete Alonso. I think he's listed as outfield.
Oh.
But a rookie starting, I mean, it's rare, but he's had a great year as far as power-wise.
I'm looking at other guys who could potentially start, and I think Acuna could. I actually think Adam Jones could from Arizona.
He's had a great year.
I'm going to sound like a homer, but Ryan Braun has actually had a really good year, but I don't think he makes the team just because there are other good guys. But I'm saying potential other guys to start. There are options, but I think it's Blackman.
Yeah, Ryan Braun. How about that? Okay, our pitcher. Let's go to pitcher. I have Ryu. Ryu has been consistently very good. There's a poll recently. There's a poll recently asking who would be your NL Cy Young, and he was like top 3 with Castillo and Paddock. But Castillo and Paddock both have outings now to where we don't know about them anymore. So Ryu has been the only one that hasn't had a bad game yet.
So I'll say this. I agree with Ryu. He was my pick. For the sake of argument, I picked someone else different. But let me make a point on what you said. Last week, I think it was literally last Sunday, we had like 4 guys who had less than 2 ERA. It was Castillo, Zach Davies from Milwaukee, and Paddock. All 3 of those guys got roughed up and are now have 2.3, 2.4 ERA, which is really good.
It's good.
But Ryu has 1.65.
Yeah. Ryu, he's been the most consistent.
My starter I picked was Zach Greinke, 6-2 with a 2.89. I really wanted to go Max Fried from Atlanta, but Greinke has pretty much the same stats and has pitched 20 more innings.
Yeah, Max Fried, he's like another one of those guys who's been really consistent, but he was not starting at the beginning of the year.
Greinke has the second lowest whip, only to Ryu. But I think it's Ryu. I just wanted to say another guy just so we could chat a little bit, because there are some. But I think the bigger story with NL pitching this year is we said Ryu, Castillo, Zach Davies, Max Fried, Chris Paddock, Scherzer, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Nola are nowhere to be found. I mean, Zach Greinke's an ace, and he's been great.
Yeah.
But other than him, wow.
They're all gone.
Brandon Woodruff, Luke Weaver, Zach Eflin have all been really good. We haven't heard of these guys. Jordan Lyles for Pittsburgh.
Patrick Korbin has had a pretty solid year.
Quiet, but good.
Quietly good. I think he leads NL in strikeouts. Him and Scherzer's going to be up there.
Yeah.
But he's going to be, like, he has had a really great season.
He's third in strikeouts.
He's had a great season.
Here's a crazy stat for you. It doesn't really have to do with our stuff, but top 3 in strikeouts are all from the Nationals. It's Scherzer, Strasburg, and Korbin.
Yeah.
But their team has just not played.
I saw a stat that they have the worst. It was up into the date, and I don't remember which date it was. Sometime last week, they had the worst starter ERA to bullpen ERA difference in history. Because their starter ERA is like 3-something. Their bullpen ERA is like almost 7.
If that doesn't describe the Washington Nationals season, I don't know what does.
So, got off track a little bit there. But basically, the starting pitchers for the Nationals are good.
Yeah. Let's go DH. So the DH, this was the one position that we got to freely pick. Basically, what the manager will do is pick a player who is named to the All-Star team from the NL, since there's no NL DH, and they will just name him the starter. I said Pete Alonso from the Mets, 16 bombs.
Great pick. Yeah.
250. I mostly picked it because he's a guy who I think will make the team, and he hits bombs. But he's straight up just probably NL Rookie of the Year right now.
Yeah,
that's my pick.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I went with who I thought was going to be a backup and who I thought was the best backup hitter, and for me that was Freddie Freeman. He's hitting 320 this year.
Great pick. Yeah.
13 home runs. So I saw MLB on Fox. They rated their top 5 lineups, and Braves were 5th, and Freddie Freeman is the backbone of that lineup.
Yeah, oh yeah. It has been for his whole career.
Yeah. So, great hitter, professional hitter. He's my designated hitter.
I think the biggest thing with this debate, if you will, we didn't really debate, but discussion, is all 20-something guys, if you want to count pitchers and DHs that we said, even though we had differences, all of them could make the All-Star team, and I won't bat an eye if I was wrong. If
No.
Flem got his 3 outfield right in the American League, then great pick. Like,
Yeah.
those guys deserve it.
And these aren't necessarily predictions. These are what would happen right now.
Yeah.
What we would think
what
would
we would
happen
vote.
Right now.
If voting was open today,
This is what
these
we'd
guys
say.
would have my votes.
And it's interesting, too, because some of these positions are defensive-based.
Yeah.
Some of them, we picked some player. I picked Joey Gallo just because he could hit. I picked Mike Trout because he has a
plays
great
defense.
glove.
Yeah.
So it's also interesting to have that discussion and what do you value most. So those are our starters. If you disagree, you can leave a note in the comments and we will prove you wrong. Just kidding.
Yes, we will.
But thank you for tuning in to our baseball podcast. We'll be back next week to discuss baseball.
We might even have a live session from Chavez Ravine. We will be
might.
seeing Bryce Harper versus Clayton Kershaw next Saturday night.
Quite possibly the best matchup we've ever seen live.
Yeah.
But
All
stay
right,
tuned
guys.
for our next episode. Thank you for tuning in.
Have a good one.
Peace.